och svar, sen behöver några gå. Men sen så blir det ett samtal efter klockan 3 där vi får möjlighet att diskutera frågan om Östturkestan och uigurer i världen och i Sverige. I would like to say welcome to this seminar in the Swedish Parliament. It's a great honor to have you here, all the way from Australia. And we will have your speech in about half an hour or something, and then we will open up for questions. And then 3 o'clock, some of the persons here need to go. There will be some people dropping in and dropping out, because this is the Swedish Parliament, and it's always going on seminars and conferences and such. And it's important for us to have an open space. I would like to tell you a little bit about the situation with the work for East Turkestan and the Uyghurs in the Swedish Parliament. 2010, me and 4 other fellow MPs from Moderate Party, from Social Democratic Party, from Christian Democrats Party and the Left Party started a friendship association in the Swedish Parliament called Svensk-Uiguriska Vänskapsföreningen, which means the Swedish Uyghur Friendship Association of the Swedish Parliament. It was the first time actually in the world, it's big to say that, but it was the first time a friendship association in a parliament was opened with this issue, Uyghur issue. And I didn't know about it when I did it, but it was me and very many people who was very active in the East Turkestan issue, which did it together. And today we have 7 members from different parties. And Mrs. Rabia Qadir was here just recently, and she has been here many times, and she told us that it was the first time such a thing happened. But now today there are more friendship associations around the world. In Japan, for instance, the Japanese Parliament has also a friendship association. And the program is that you are going to speak half an hour, then we will open up for questions. Then we will have a small break because the Uyghur Marip Association has some delights for us, cakes and some drinks and fruit. And then we will gather again to have a more roundtable speak in a room just nearby. I would like to welcome also the chairman of the Uyghur Marip Association, Nejat Turgun, and the floor is yours, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Hej. Många hoş geldiniz. Alla är välkomna. Jag ska ta på svenska eftersom det är i Sverige, officiellt språk. Först och främst vill jag tacka för svenska regering och svenska ledamöter, speciellt för Svensk-Uiguriska Vänskapsförening och speciellt för vår kära ledamot Mehmet Kaplan som har anordnat den här seminarium. Svenska Vänskapsföreningen har anordnat många seminarium i riksdagen angående om uigurernas fall. Och uigurerna är nu ett bortglömda, världens mest förtryckta folkgrupper som bor i sitt eget land, som ett främmande folk, som förtryckta. Som det här fallet att många länder som vill inte ta upp eller som vågar, som undviker att prata om den här deras situation, deras fall, deras förtryck. Men vår svenska regering, svenska staten, speciellt efter 2012 har fattat en beslut att alla uigurerna från Kina skulle inte utvisas tillbaka till Kina. Sen de för och andra arbete har gett, vilket har gett möjligheten för uigurerna att jobba för uigurernas rättigheter, för deras frihet på ett demokratiskt sätt. Vi är väldigt tacksamma för det. Sen vi ser fram emot också för de andra riksdagsledamöter också, bara med de svenska uiguriska parlamentariska vänskapsförening, speciellt för vår ledamot Sadat Doglo också. Vi ser fram emot det. Så jag tackar en gång till. Alla är hjärtligt välkomna. Tack.
Tackar så mycket för det, Nejat. Nejat var det som blev Vasila, så orsaken till att jag blev intresserad av uigurernas situation i Sveriges riksdag. Nejat was the person and the issue which also made me more interested in the situation for Uyghurs in the world and also the East Turkestan issue. So I'm grateful to have been knowing him for the last 6, 7, 8 years or something. And I'm also grateful to have members of the important organization who is actually keeping the issue alive about the East Turkestan. So I will say one more time, hoş geldiniz, welcome to the Swedish Parliament. You are a scholar, you are a person very active in the Australian civil society. You are the Vice President of the Southern Islamic Organization of Australia, as I understand, and you're also the Vice President of the East Turkestan Uyghur Association in Australia. We had the opportunity to invite you because you were going to be a part of a conference here in this weekend. So when we heard that you could come one day earlier, we were very happy that you could make it. And we also have guests from Mecca who just joined us from the airport directly to this seminar. So you're also most welcome. And I want to give you the floor, and I hope that we will benefit from this, and we know that when it is a beneficial, we know where it comes from, and if it's something we misunderstand, then we know also where it comes from. Bismillah. And you can present yourself. I can have a long dictionary about who you are, but I want you to say some words about you. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. I'd like to start my speech by thanking you all, and special thanks to Parlament for organizing this special event for us, for the Uyghur community, to express their situation in front of you, to present the situation of East Turkestan in front of you. And also, I thank the members of Parliament, and special thanks to the government of Sweden for allowing us, or even accepting the Turkestani people as their friends. It's a great honor, and we truly appreciate that. And I would like to just remind myself and you, because the statement of the Prophet was said that one who does not thank people does not thank God. It means it's part of our religious duty that we thank the people who do good to us. So I definitely like to appreciate all this hospitality and this organizing this event for us. My name is Abdul Salam Abdul Ghani Alim. I am from East Turkestan, from the south part of East Turkestan, which is known as Khotan. I left Turkestan at a very young age. I was about 11 years old. My parents, they were traveling to Saudi Arabia for pilgrimage via Pakistan. That was the route then. I was left in one of the institutions there to study. I studied there, and later on I joined to the university, which is known as the International Islamic University in Islamabad. There I've studied for about 8 years, doing my bachelor's degree in the Sharia and law, which is called LLB, and then continued my master's in the same course. And I completed my study in 1998, and at the end of 1999 I was sponsored by the Islamic Society of South Australia, which is now, I'm the president of that association now. And I joined that group to be a religious leader, which we call in Turkish as Hoja. I was an imam and leading the prayers there, and also doing like Islamic dawah work to the Muslims and to also non-Muslims in Australia, to make bridge between Muslims and non-Muslims, and I'm still working on that. And plus, I'm a full-time teacher at one of the colleges. So this is my brief background, because since I was given only half an hour, I don't want to take all this time for about my life. My topic today is about East Turkestan, and I'd like to just start asking this question. Like, I know there are my friends, Uyghur friends, that they know where they are from, but from the non-Turkestani, non-Uyghur friends, when was the first time you heard about East Turkestan? Because to know about a place, what we do normally is we study in history as a history subject in our schools or colleges or universities, and also sometimes we do browse internet, and through that we find out, sometimes by looking at the map, if you want to know about the location or geography of some place, and we look at the map and try, okay, this is Australia, it situates in certain part of the world. But when you talk about East Turkestan, unfortunately we don't find that word written or exist in the map. So even by looking at the map or studying sometimes in history, which is a distorted history, for example, which is presented by the Chinese government about our land, you will not be able to know about East Turkestan, because that name does not exist. So if I repeat my question, when was the first time you heard about East Turkestan? Probably is at the back, yes?
When my father, he told me.
Okay, that's great, yes.
2007.
2007. And that's good, but that means that, where else you could learn about East Turkestan? That makes us also, as East Turkestani people who are living outside Turkestan, whether we call it we were refugees or to got protection status by any government, it became our duty to raise awareness about our Turkestan, because we are part of the world in the first place. We are all belong to the same family, Adam and Eve, as the Prophet rightly mentioned, that you all belong to Adam and Eve, and we are brothers and sisters. So it's the duty of everyone to know each other, to help each other, to create peace and harmony in this world, so that everyone lives in happiness, irrespective of your color, race, gender, religious background, whatever, because we all human beings. And then that is something that's given by God to all people, and that's the greatest honor, as rightly is mentioned in the Quran and in the statement of the Prophet. Now, so it will probably will give you extra information about East Turkestan. So I'll start this I'll take you to some of the with some of the maps which doesn't exist now in the current situation, but it was there in history. Unfortunately, it's forgotten. Or some countries, by China, and those countries who listen to China, unfortunately, because of their interest in China, they follow that dictated version of the maps of the world, and they do not recognize East Turkestan as being an independent state or country, and Uyghur people were seen as something they were discovered from in the middle of the deserts in Taklamakan probably, and which they haven't been heard before, maybe of 200, 300 years ago. So my talk will be based on these important points: historical East Turkestan and East Turkestan states established in the current territory of East Turkestan, and Qing Manchu, which were the first occupiers, invaders of this land. Then came the Kuomintang, which was also the oldest version of the Chinese people who invaded Turkestan, and then came the communist regime since 1949. It's still under its occupation, and we have been under Chinese communist regime for the last 65 years. Now this is the first map. When you look at it, you can see the word here, Hyongnu Empire, which is, and then next to it you can see at the bottom, Han Empire. It means that it was two totally different places, locations. Chinese territory was very much clear in that at the bottom right map. Second one also gives a little bit further explanation. First time in history, the term East Turkestan Khanate was mentioned 560 AD. That shows that our history takes us back even before the CE or Common Era, 500 or 600 years. And then there are some also proofs that these people, as a nation with their own independent land, exists, and they had their own scripts in writing before actually East Turkestani people accepted Islam and then accepted the Arabic script. And then Uyghur Empire was not a weak nation or people who belonged to a land and then they just survived there for certain years. They had a very great time as well in their history. They had their own empires. They almost ruled eastern part, East Asia, up to Central Asia was also ruled by the Uyghur Empire in the past. That you can see that between 745 to 840 AD. And this is also another map which shows the exact location and how they expanded their territory around their land. An identical and authentic geolocation of Uyghur Empire 745 to 840 is also presented here. And this was also some of the historic proofs that Uyghur people's culture and tradition and how they used to live. And those three pictures shows that their traditional clothes and how they used to present themselves. And on the other side you can see their script they used to follow. And this is one of the maps which were drawn by one of our scholars, Mahmoud Kashgari. And it was known to be the best and authentic territorial map presented by a great scholar who was known to be one of the greatest scholars in Asia in his time. So these couple of extra maps also give us a better explanation or understanding about East Turkestan. And then they had many different rulers ruled, and they were all Turkic leaders. Sadia Khan, and then there was a Yarkant leadership, which was also very famous, and they had their impact and strength all over Central Asia to some time. Now, these maps, so we can find if someone who does the research on that, you can get it, and then you can find some information. But in normal maps, you don't see any of those. And just recently, when the Chinese chair Xi Jinping visited Europe, and one of his place was Germany, and in one of the dinner, which was organized by the German Chancellor, he was presented with a map which was drawn in 1735 by a historian, and that clearly showed that East Turkestan was a separate place, and also Tibet, and China was limited behind the China Wall, the Great Wall of China. So the reason I'm saying this, it's not something that we claim as Uyghurs or East Turkestani people. It's recognized by the world leaders, and it's something internationally known, but unfortunately it's pressed. And for various reasons, it's political reasons as well, because each country puts their own interest before others. Now, in recent times, like when you look at 100 years, that was the real clash between Turkestan and China took place, and it was ruled by Manchu leader in between, who was born in, who lived in between 1812 to 1885, and he became the first Manchu leader who ruled East Turkestan for some time. And they came afterwards when he got kicked out by great leader Yaqub Beg Bedaulat. He was able to kick the Chinese or their occupation from East Turkestan between 1860 to 1880s. Then again another invasion happened in East Turkestan, and it was a very unfortunate one. That's the first time when the word East Turkestan was changed, and they gave a new name called Xinjiang, or it was also known Xinjiang, which was a Chinese word which meant a new territory, which means something which did not exist, it was just discovered. So a new territory, that was the meaning. And they also sometimes call Xiu, it's the western part of China. And we have also some proofs that we had our own independent states, country, as East Turkestan. It was in 1933. East Turkestani people got up against aggression, and they were able to establish their own independent state. They call it East Turkestan Islamic Republic, which was achieved by Sabit Damullah, and then Hoja Niyaz Haji was elected as the president, and he could only last for 1 year because of the conspiracy between Russia and China, who became the victim of their interest. And then it was taken over by the Chinese Kuomintang. And then in 1944 again, our ancestors were able to regain their freedom, and it lasted for about 5 to 6 years. And then in 1949, the dark days of East Turkestan started again when the invasion by the communist regime took place, and then we are still suffering under the same invasion. So these two times of independence of East Turkestan shows clearly, and it was not only within this district, it was recognized by the world nations at that time. It was recognized and announced as an independent state. But unfortunately, as the time passed, people forgot about the reality, and many people even don't pay attention or turn blind eyes to the reality of East Turkestan. Now, also it's important to know why we call it East Turkestan. Why is that? Because it's actually there was only one Turkestan. It was for all Turkic people coming from different backgrounds. There are like Tatars, Uzbeks, Kazakhs, and Turkmens. They were all known as Kyrgyz, who also belonged to the Turkic group. But because the Russia's communist regime played the biggest role for their own interests, and they invaded those parts, and there was some conspiracy done between China and Russia, so they divided this part into two. One part, which was known as the Western part, is known as the Central Asian countries, which we all know with different names now, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. That part was taken over by Russia, and then the eastern part was taken over by China. But the western part was lucky enough to get their independence when Russia got defeated from Afghanistan, and they got their independence in 1991. And they were again, unfortunately, instead of becoming a Western Turkestan as one country, they were divided into small states. And Turkestan are actually the combination of two words. Turk is which are known that the nation belongs to, like we call the Turk people, ethnic name, but Istan is a Persian word which means land. So when you translate the word Turkestan, becomes the land of the Turkic people. So that means that that doesn't differentiate between whether you're Eastern Turkish people or the Western or Uzbek, Kazakh, Kyrgyz. You all call given the same name, which is Turk. Now, how then China claims that East Turkestan did not exist or it was part of China? So they always have these three important claims they have. This is called falsehood. The biggest falsehood against our people, our land. We deny it from A to Z. There is no compromising that. It's full stop. The first one, they say that China has established the government power in East Turkestan during the Han Dynasty, which is the biggest lie. And we've seen in the map that the Han Dynasty time, they did not even exist as Chinese because they were ruled by Manchus. Second one is China has ruled the Western region for more than 2,000 years. Another big lie. And these are the distorted history presented by Chinese government, and it's being taught in the schools. The people had to learn, and they were brainwashed, and they had to accept that falsehood. The third one is East Turkestan has been an inseparable part of China since the history. This is another big lie. And they still unashamedly speak that East Turkestan did not exist. It was Xinjiang, it was inseparable or undivided part of China. And they still say that, and because we have a saying that when you have power, even if you say lie, then it will be accepted. Okay, so China is using whatever is within its power to accept, to make the people, especially the neighboring countries, weak countries like Central Asian countries and then subcontinent and Southeast Asian countries, to accept that falsehood. So basically, we became the victim of terrorism, which was established or done by Russia and China. Now we want to just take a little bit about what has been happening in the last 65 years. Now East Turkestan, not only the people of East Turkestan, Turkestan, but also East Turkestan itself as a land suffered in the hand of Chinese government, Chinese regime. There have been so many situations or problems that we have with our forefathers, and even now we are suffering. It's like the genocide policies have been planned from day one, and they have used so many different tactics to achieve their goal. Discriminatory implications of policies being established in Turkestan, persecutory legislation, they call that they have the constitution, they have fair trial, everything, but it doesn't apply in Turkestan at all. It only works within China, but when it comes to Turkestan, East Turkestan, they have a special or separate rule for that. And then the continuing unrest is there. There hasn't passed one single day in the last 65 years where people of East Turkestan could have said, okay, I'm going to sleep in rest in peace tonight. Social, political inequality is there, ethnic cleansing is happening, religious persecution, cultural destruction, and linguistic assimilation. So the aim and the objective of East China against Turkestan was to completely destroy them. Yes, they were able to erase East Turkestan from the map. I mean, that's what they're claiming, because East Turkestan doesn't exist as mentioned in the map. But second was that practically they want to achieve their goal. And that's why they use so many different strategies for this purpose. So the 65 years of Chinese occupation has made the Uyghur people uncivilized. Now, sometimes when you question, one of the questions people ask, why there are so much unemployment, why you give employment to the Chinese people and you leave the Uyghurs outside? They say because they are uneducated, they are uncivilized. But nobody questions why they became like that. What is the root reason that people of East Turkestan became like uncivilized or uneducated? Why the Chinese people who were just 50 years ago or 60 years ago, they were uneducated, and the world knows that. When the Japanese invasion was there, the Chinese people could not even have the intellectuals among them who could think about freedom. But now it's just turning around, and they call us uncivilized or barbaric people. And that's why, the people, they don't realize the human rights that they've been given by China, which unfortunately is a big lie as well, because there hasn't been any human rights for the East Turkestani people. So you can see gross violated human rights in East Turkestan, unimaginable social injustices, excessive ethnic hatred, mass arrests, severe torture and killing, identity loss of Uyghurs, demoralizing society and negative impact, ignore social welfare, political freedom, outnumbered unemployment. I'm going to go to a little bit some detail in this, give us some real live examples. Now, for example, if you take some of the examples that Turkestan has faced in the past 65 years, nuclear test, which took place in Turkestan between 1960s to 75 or up to 80s, 46 nuclear tests were done. 46, can you imagine, and that's done just the distance between the people where, the place where people lived and the tests were carried out was only 350 kilometers. The impact of this was so gross on the land of East Turkestan. Environmental pollution and also disability among the people is happening, and the newborn children are born with defects and problems. It's still happening, although they claim that they have stopped it, but there have been other chemical tests have been done on the land of East Turkestan. And the other biggest problem we face is illegal settlement of Chinese people. They were brought into Turkestan and they became settlers, and in many parts of East Turkestan, the East Turkestani people, the Uyghurs especially, became minority. And violation of freedom of speech. No one can speak out against the injustices carried out in Turkestan. And we could not even say our own mother tongue. 30 million people who speak Uyghur language now are deprived from learning or teaching that language in their own country. And it's replaced with Chinese. It was a very a well-planned, systematic way of destroying the East Turkestan. They tried it many ways. In 1970s, for example, they changed the Uyghur script because our script is the Arabic script we write. In the 1970s, they tried to change it to Latin. And those people who were educated before the 70s, they became uneducated because they could not read and write the newly implemented script, which was Latin language, Latin writing. And then in the 1980s, in the middle of the 1980s, they brought again the old script. So this kind of like an horrific happens many times. The birth control policy is there, forced labor, unemployment, and also the resources of East Turkestan have been robbed by the Chinese government. We are very rich in mineral resources. We are known to be the Kuwait of the 21st century. The historians, the people who study, the research on East Turkestan, they have come up with this conclusion. Now, to cut short, also, I'd like to just bring to you some of the things that which happened. Like, it's been an ongoing problem. This was unrest happening since 1949. But if you talk about 5 years ago, what happened 6 years ago, people might think, oh, it's a bit old because we have so many new issues happening in the world. For example, Syria, Palestine. So don't you have anything new? So I will give you some examples from what happened in last year only, in 2013. The atrocities took place in East Turkestan. So there are about 37 incidents happened. 11 of them are major ones. For example, one which took place in Khotan city on the 29th of June 2013. There was a clash between the soldiers, police, and Muslims who were coming out after completing their congregation Jummah prayer, Friday prayer, and they were banned from praying, so they were very upset. They called slogans that we want our freedom, we want to be able to freely pray, able to pray in our mosques, but the reaction from the government was they opened fire at them, and over 270 people got shot dead on the spot, and about 800 of them were arrested. And also in Pijan, another place, also 45 Uyghurs were killed. In Kargilik city, there were 22 Uyghurs were killed in one incident. And all these are based on the false claim by the Chinese government that these people are terrorists because they were carrying out terrorist activities. And how could that be possible that the people who don't have anything in their hands, who are fully controlled by the Chinese regime, like, they could carry out something like that? So they were using any means, any excuse to destroy our people. Now, another recent incident, there are some people who were, arrested. For example, Ilham Tohti, who was an intellectual who used to speak for the rights of people within the context of Chinese constitution, without breaking the law of the country. But he was arrested and he was charged by the separatists being carrying out the ideas of separatism. And also another person was Karam Abdullahi, who has been in prison since 1990. He was just a religious leader. He did not commit any crime, he did not kill anyone, he did not break any law, but he was just carrying out normal teaching of religion. And he was given 12 years sentence, but he is still in prison. So it was extended two times. Another person who tried to save the mother tongue, Uyghur tongue, and he was actually an intellectual who studied in the United States, he had a very good opportunity to stay there and a good job, but he decided to go back and help the people, but unfortunately he was also arrested. And another picture where you can see the girls, they were forced from the rural areas of East Turkestan, and they were taken into Chinese place, eastern part of China, and they were put in the very bad situations in the factories to work in the name of creating jobs for them. While on the other hand, they've been bringing thousands, millions of Chinese people into East Turkestan and creating great, life and job for them. So it doesn't make sense. So the aim was to change the actual shape of East Turkestan by creating all those things. There are many examples, like for example, now our religion is fully under attack. Women, the cultural dresses are not allowed now. A woman who wears headscarf is not allowed to go, if she is sick, to go be treated in the hospitals. And because you can see one of the top one says that a woman with headscarf should not be served. It means she's unable to go use public bus transports, for example. She's not accepted on the buses, on taxi. She's not even accepted in the hospitals if she's sick. And it's written openly, and then they have used this. The second one, there is a kind of promise statement that people who are public servants, people who work in the government, had to sign on the 6 things that, I will defend the communist ideology. I will not practice religion. I will not allow anyone in my family to wear a headscarf. All those kind of things. And if you break any of the rules, you will lose your job, and you will be given fine, and there will be other persecution as well. So all these things are like openly implemented by the Chinese rule in Turkestan, which is sometimes, if you tell it to people in this 21st century won't be able to believe in that problems. But because the press media is pressed and controlled by Chinese regime, so we can't do much about it. And the only thing we are able to do outside East Turkestan is to only raise awareness among people who truly respect freedom, people who respect human rights. We are just trying to bring this issue to the people so that they can understand our situation and do something about our cause, helping in whatever the way to achieve freedom, where 30 million people's lives are under attack and they are about to be destroyed or cleansed completely removed from the earth, from the face of the earth. So we all say freedom for East Turkestan. So if you have any further questions, probably we could discuss afterwards. I think my time is up. So thank you very much.